All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a really cool idea. What if a city isn't just, a place on a map? What if it's a living, breathing cultural phenomenon? That's what we're going to unpack with something called the Taipei Discourse, looking at how this one city became a place where different layers of history are all happening at once. It's wild.
So, let's just kick things off with this question, because it's the core of everything. What if a city could be a cultural wormhole? I mean, just think about that for a second. It's a pretty mind-bending idea, right? It totally changes how you'd look at a place, suggesting it could literally bend time and culture.
Okay, so what do we even mean by a cultural wormhole? Well, we're not talking about sci-fi, even though it sounds like it. It means a place where history isn't just locked away in a museum behind glass. No. Here, different times, different eras, different big ideas, they're all actively mixing it up, right now, creating a present that's just so dynamic and layered and alive.
And the framework that lets us see Taipei this way is what's known as the Taipei Discourse. Think of it like a special pair of glasses. You put them on, and suddenly you're seeing the city not as some static place, but as this active, buzzing space where multiple timelines are just unfolding and bumping into each other right in front of you.
And look, this is not just some abstract academic theory. It's something you can literally see and feel just by walking around the city. You're basically moving through a conversation between the past and the present. You might see a vendor on the street selling, traditional snacks from a recipe that's maybe centuries old, and they're set up right next to a super sleek, high-tech skyscraper. The past isn't just preserved here, it's part of the daily vibe.
So, the big question is, how did this happen? How did Taipei become this cultural wormhole? Well, to figure that out, we've got to rewind. We need to look at two really specific, really powerful historical moments that basically provided the raw materials, the cultural DNA for what the city is today.
Okay, so here they are, the two main ingredients in our recipe. First, you've got the late Ming Dynasty way back in the 1500s, which, believe it or not, was a time of incredible openness. Then we fast forward to the early 20th century, the early Republic, this amazing experiment in blending cultures. Let's break each of these down.
So, that first ingredient, the spirit of the late Ming Dynasty. Now, you might have this image of old imperial China as, rigid and isolated, but you've got to throw that out for this period. This era was absolutely buzzing with energy. We're talking about a time that valued personal freedom, that had vibrant trade connecting it to the rest of the world. It was this culture of outward curiosity. It fostered this really unique kind of humanism. It wasn't isolated at all. It was incredibly energetic.
And then there's our second key ingredient, the Republican project. So after the last dynasty falls, there's this intense drive to modernize China. But here's the crucial part. It's all about how they wanted to do it. The goal wasn't to just copy-paste the West. The thinkers and leaders of the time wanted to graft, that's the word they used, graft Western ideas onto these deep Chinese cultural roots, like that Ming humanism we just talked about. It was this huge, ambitious project to create a modernity that was still uniquely and authentically Chinese.
Okay, so we've got these two really potent cultural ideas, right? The Ming spirit of openness and the Republican ambition for synthesis. But they're separated by centuries. So what on earth brought them together in one place? Well, this leads us to the pivotal moment, the catalyst that just supercharged the whole thing. That catalyst? It's a single year, 1949. This is the year the Chinese Civil War ends on the mainland and the nationalist government retreats to Taiwan. This one historical event basically acts like a funnel, concentrating all of those historical forces, the Ming ideals, the Republican project, and pouring them directly into Taipei.
And you really have to pause and think about the human scale of this moment. I mean, this was not just a political move, it was a massive cultural migration. As one writer put it so well, imagine the effort, the dedication, maybe the heartbreak too, moving a civilization's heritage across the sea. It's just staggering.
And what exactly came over? We're talking about a mind-boggling concentration of culture. Huge numbers of the era's absolute top scholars and intellectuals. Entire libraries, books, priceless manuscripts, and of course, famously, crate after crate of the most priceless art treasures from the Palace Museum. It was like the heritage of an entire civilization, all landing in one compact city. So, what happens when you do that? When you cram that much history, art, and intellectual firepower into one place under these incredibly dramatic circumstances, well, you create the perfect conditions for a totally unique cultural experiment. Taipei essentially became a living laboratory for a different kind of modernity.
You can almost think of it like a recipe, right? Step 1, you take that Ming spirit of humanism and openness. Step 2, you fold in the Republican project of cultural synthesis. And then, for step 3, you supercharge the whole mix with that incredible 1949 concentration of minds and treasures. And the result? You get this completely unique, alternative path for what Chinese modernity could look like.
But why was this path so different from what happened elsewhere? The key, according to this argument, was breathing room. In Taipei, all these cultural threads had the space to actually weave together, to integrate. This was in contrast to the mainland, which saw major political upheavals that, at times, suppressed traditional arts and liberal thought. Taipei, instead, nurtured an environment where tradition, tech, and democracy could all kind of evolve together.
And you can see the result of this path today in the most amazing ways. You go to the National Palace Museum in Taipei, which houses all those ancient treasures, and what do you find? They're using augmented reality to let you explore ancient artifacts. That's it, right there. It's a place where classical learning is literally talking to cutting-edge tech, the past and the future having a real-time conversation.
Okay, so this unique journey, this special evolution, gives Taipei a really important role in the world today. The Taipei Discourse argues the city isn't some cultural outpost on the sidelines. No, not at all. It actually serves a much more critical function, and it's captured by this one really powerful idea.
And that idea is guanqing. It's a Chinese word, and it means something like the crucial hub or the critical pivot point. So this concept doesn't see Taipei as being on the edge of anything. It sees it as the central hinge that connects different parts of this massive cultural story.
So let's just pull it all together. This is the core argument of the Taipei Discourse. First, Taipei is not a cultural periphery. It is a center. Second, it acts as that guanqing, the hinge, for a totally alternative form of Chinese modernity. Third, it keeps that version of modernity alive, breathing, and engaged with the rest of the world. And finally, it offers a different story, one that's open, dynamic, and always evolving.
So in the end, the way Taipei mixes all these different layers of itself, it's just a powerful model for how culture can evolve. And it leaves us with this really fascinating final thought to chew on. What other cities out there are doing this? What other places might be acting as their own cultural wormholes, creating brand new futures by remixing their pasts, maybe in ways we haven't even noticed yet?